Hello again and welcome to a series of unfortunate events. Ever since December 2017, everything took a turn for the worse for me. One of the reasons for all my troubles was that the engine had failed me miserably. And on top of that, I required several parts for this endeavor. The biggest problem encountered was the piston rings, because there was only one country in the world which had the last original full set of rings for the 2.8-liter engine, and that was in the Netherlands. Due to many past issues with this country's courier service, this time I had to make sure that everything arrived in order. So to do so, I had to fly there and pick up these parts myself. However, once I've arrived, I had to scout the first two rings at one shop in the far north of the country, and the scraper rings were at a different shop in the central part of the country. At the end of this journey, I still could not find everything that was required in the Netherlands, which led to another roundabout issue to having to buy even more parts from America. This mission costed me so much that I ended up spending all the money I had in my savings. And to top it off, I found no support from anyone. So, from December all the way till July, it was a very tough and lonely road to travel. Anyway, for today's topic we are going to learn about how to deal with a broken heart. Now at some point in everyone's life, we all have to go through it, and so do cars. In this situation, this car has undergone what is called an infant mortality failure. This term means that when the subject is put to the test at its initial stages, it ends up wearing out prematurely. The reason for this engine to have such a premature life is due to the oil control rings, or what is sometimes referred to as the scraper rings. Based on what was found while measuring the gapping, the tolerance was supposed to be 0.3 mm to 0.6 mm, and the ones that were measured ranged from 2.25 mm to 2.48 mm. Also, when checking the valve clearance, they seem to be off by 0.05 of a millimeter to 0.1 of a millimeter over the limit. So this leads us back to the matter at hand. When dealing with any matters of the heart, many people tend to avoid the pain of going about it properly, and not face the problem directly. Due to having a lot of mixed feelings of anguish and confusion in such a situation, These issues usually end up getting patched up instead of taking the time to find out why things fail the way they do, in order to improve them. For example, in this case, I might just fit a new set of rings and just reassemble it to get it over and done with. Now that is one solution, and the result will still be good enough to get the engine running. But why opt for good if you can do better? And why choose better if it can be built the best it can be? By just providing the right amount of care and attention, that might just be the only factor that makes any engine run smoother and maybe get more power out of it. And as a result, what would be created is something that is truly unique, that only those who keep persevering will ever understand. The bottom line to all this is, the reason why this engine had failed me so miserably is entirely my fault. In this case, I trusted others blindly, and I followed other people's advice instead of going along with how I knew things should be built. But instead, I had the cylinder head set and the engine built by others, just as many of us would do it most of the time. We let other people's opinions and judgment cloud what we truly feel and know what is right to do. So in this case, be it good or bad, I am going to rebuild it myself at a standard I know I am used to. And who knows, this experience might teach me something new about myself. However, due to being in such a state of shock and panic at the time of the disassembly, everything was done in a rush. So while the engine damage was being diagnosed in order to go get the parts, that one very important broken part had slipped my analysis. And I only realized my mistake when I came back from Holland. Having said so, the problem was that, in failing to remove all the pistons, the real problem that was lurking inside the engine was left uncharted, until it was too late.
Taking this ghastly risk is the condition of there being life. You see, for all, life is an act of faith and an act of gamble, because you don't really know that the floor is not going to give under your feet. The moment you take a step, what an act of faith. The moment you take a journey, what an act of faith.
The willingness to fail, the willingness to try, to experiment, the willingness to take some chances. What's the first thing they say when you get on an airplane before they take off? Fasten your seatbelt. Why? Because you will experience some turbulence before you reach a comfortable altitude. I don't care how good you are, I don't care how talented you are. There are some times when things aren't going to go right that you did not anticipate. There are times when anything that can happen will happen. And you can either let it destroy your life or you can build upon it. You can permit it to let it hold you down, or you can decide, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm bigger than this. You'll get knocked down, but you won't be knocked out. Make a declaration to yourself. Declare all out war that you're going to get out of this rut. I suggest to you that if you are facing a challenge, don't stop. Continue to move. Stay busy, stay busy, stay busy. Work your plan. It's not easy, but through practice and practice and practice, practice makes improvement. Because what you give is what you get.